3-year circumference of the globe by bike. It was just a short section called the Frozen Road, and it won with Kendal and then went on to win with Banff and Five Point and a number of other festivals. He's a very innovative filmmaker, super authentic, and we're really chuffed to have him online to have a quick chat with us today. So please hold up as I bring Ben on, not stage, on Zoom, the thing that's a bit like Zoom. Hi Ben, how are you doing?
Hello, how are you doing?
Where are you dialing in from?
I am dialing in from lockdown London at the moment.
What's it like?
I'm very used to being indoors. Yeah.
Which is not really your jam, is it?
No, I quite like being outside, but don't we all? At least anyone who's watching this likes being outside. Yeah, but in London, yeah. And
can you tell me a little bit about the film that is in the festival this year?
Yeah, so the film, it's called Iraklis Lantern. It's been like an off and on little passion project of mine over the last year and a half or so. And it takes place in Georgia, up in the Caucasus Mountains of Georgia, in this region called Tusheti. And Tusheti is this really mountainous region, very historic. There's centuries, if not millennia, of history in the region, of people living there. And I was really lucky that I was told about a man who lives up in the mountains up there, a very special man, and that the village that he lives in, he lives there alone, and by living there, it's classed as the highest village in all of Europe, and he is the last inhabitant of Europe's highest village. So I heard about this story, heard about this man, and was introduced to him, and then the film kind of followed on from there. It just seemed like such an interesting character. Lots of my films, or the few films I've made in the past, have kind of dealt with cold environments and being on your own. So I felt like I could hopefully bring his story, or at least his situation onto screen.
And how did you come across him?
So I'd been in Georgia, the country, in the past, and some people had said, "Have you heard about this guy?" And he's really interesting. He's quite well known within the country, not really wider, but he's well known within the country. So people had kind of mentioned him in the past, and then I found a way to get in touch with him through a network of people, and eventually managed to get in touch with him directly, and asked him if he was at all interested in some random foreigner coming out and living with him for a little while, and he said yes. So that's how the film kind of came about.
That's quite the that's quite the quest. So for those of us that don't know, can you just give me a bit of an insight into Georgia as a country and its kind of current context?
Yeah, so Georgia it's in the Caucasus region. So a lot of the news recently has been around Armenia and Azerbaijan. It kind of sits in this little cradle of countries next to Turkey, Armenia, Azerbaijan, and to the north with Russia. And actually where Irakli lives, this region, Tusheti, borders, like the spine of the mountains are the border with Russia. It's got a really long, interesting history culturally, in that the whole region has passed over the centuries between Ottoman Empire to then being very Christian to then being Soviet Union, but all the way through, Georgia has kind of maintained its sense of cultural identity, of independence. They've got their own script, got their own language. It's rumored to be one of the oldest languages in the world, or one of the oldest scripts in the world. It's got its own sect of Christianity, so Georgian Orthodox Christianity. So there's a really, really strong national identity there. And as a country, historically, it's been split into different regions. Different regions of the mountains were always slightly different. They had slightly different languages, slightly different cultural practices. And Tusheti, which is one of these regions in the northwest of the country, has its own long history of being Tushetians, and people are very, very, very patriotic, very proud of the region that they come from. And that is certainly, in Irakli's case, he's a very proud Tushetian man. So he's Tushetian and then he's Georgian.
And what kind of man is he, aside from being deeply proud of his region?
So he was born and bred in the region during the Soviet Union, so in the 1930s, 40s, 50s onwards. He trained to be a doctor, which was really rare for people who come from the mountains to go on and have any sense of, like, you know, a profession. Traditionally, Tushetians are sheep herders, and that's always been their, you know, their identity in the past. But he went on to be a doctor. So he's quite a well-educated man. He moved away to the city, worked through his young middle years as a doctor, and then felt the calling to come back to the mountains, to Tusheti, to his home village. And that's where he built his house up in the village, and that's where he lived ever since. And the film, I'm not sure whether people have seen the film or not, but the film, he comes across as a very stoic, very kind of thoughtful, very quiet man. But in reality, when I was there with him, filming with him, he's the life and soul of a party. He's like a really energetic, really lively person. And there are obviously times when he's caught off guard and he's not trying to entertain, but he's kind of got these two swings of personalities, from trying to be a host and like the focus, to then what he's probably like when he's on his own.
All right, so I've been quite, I'm sorry, can I fidget? I'm trying not to fidget when I do these things. I've been fairly gentle on you so far because, dear audience, this film is very beautiful, and I kind of wanted Ben to give a kind of a bit of a background story. It really is worth watching. Is it 17 or 20?
16. It's so quick.
Long. It's a moment in a huge life, and it's in Age is No Barrier. Really, really beautiful. Ben's last film was all self-shot and focusing on himself, which was fair enough because it was quite a hardcore thing he did. And this is a real departure from that style. So I would definitely recommend you watch it. And Ben, if you were going to describe the tone of the film in 3 words, what would you say?
In 3 words?
Just 3.
Okay.
You can choose one. If one sums it up, that's fine.
I mean, I can't at all say that this is accurate, but it's got a feel, at least a cinematic like feel of The Revenant. So it's stark. It's I mean, it's not at all comparable, but it's like, it's mountains, it's blue, it's stark, it's got deep human, like real life human emotion or struggles, perseverance. That's a lot of words, actually. That's not 3 words at all.
With it's like the no, didn't even succeed then.
No,
we're getting through now.
Yeah. 3 words. Beautiful, somewhat dark, somewhat hopeful.
All right. Okay, I'm going to ask you questions about you now, because you may have created a film about a character who is the life and soul of the party, but obviously you are also often the life and soul of the party, so we are very sad not to have you here. How have you found 2020?
2020 has been a complex, quite difficult year. The world of filmmaking kind of has shut down for much of the year. The world of outdoor filmmaking is shut down. It's been a year of learning that home is a really nice place. I think that a lot of that actually comes out in Irakli's Lantern. I think a lot of the theme of belonging to a place and understanding that connection and belonging to like a physical place is important. His story, and it's actually by parallel has been very important this year, not just for me, but I guess for a lot of us. It's been a struggle, but you know, 2021's around the corner. Hopefully that brings new energies and new things.
It's one of the things that I think when we were curating the film, we felt was so special. The theme of the festival this year, we chose nurture, which we actually chose before any of this happened in February. And for us, that was, it was kind of looking inwards and focusing on what home is, and where home in yourself, home in your family, nurturing the wider home of the world. But I think films like yours and quite a few of the others in the festival, it's just that kind of quiet sense of, what can I pay attention to? Yeah,
and I think Irakli's story is so kind of special and probably hopefully resonates somewhat, at least thematically, that it's he's sacrificed a lot for something he really strongly believes in. So he's sacrificed a lot of his own personal happiness, a lot of his own personal comfort. Like he's absent from his family for 6 months of the year. He's absent from others, friends, and conversation, and from a lot of things for 6 months of the year, because he really strongly believes that being physically in this place serves a purpose, and it's a purpose beyond his own feelings, emotions, or whatever. And I guess, you know, through our lockdowns in this year, and where we've all got to play a part larger than ourselves, I think that kind of resonates at some level. Maybe it resonates talking about it. It doesn't, like in the film, but I think that's a really nice parallel.
It totally does.
And he really has sacrificed quite a lot for something he really strongly believes in. Now, whether, you know, by watching the film we might see that we disagree with whether there's any point to what he's doing, but to believe in something and to really see that through, regardless of the end, like the outcome at the end, I think is quite special. And seeing that through, his belief comes from a sense of patriotism. He really strongly believes that there needs to be habitation up in the mountains. You know, his ancestors and generations before have maintained a population in the region, and through the encroaching modernity, people leaving the mountains looking for other opportunities. He's witnessing this classic case of like rural urban migration, people fleeing for other opportunities, and he's trying to stand strong against that.
Oh, Ben, there's another film, and audience, if you're interested in that idea of rural urban migration and what changes of life happens to that, and how that affects us almost on a global scale, surprisingly, then watch Iran Teaching the Nomads, which is a feature film about that.
Mm-hmm.
So he obviously became, or he sounds to me like he has become, an unintentional mentor to you. What other mentors do you think you have, if you do?
I don't know, I think we take mentors from, you know, a sentence in a book, or from, you know, hearing one thing somewhere else. I wouldn't say there's specific like mentors in person, but there's certainly like pieces of people's work that I'm really inspired by, or people's outlook on life, or the way that they approach life, that can be really inspiring. But often I feel like, to make things personal, or at least applicable to ourselves, we've got to just, it's like taking little pieces each where and everywhere we can find them, or resonate. And you never really know when something's going to resonate. So that's kind of nice when you stumble upon like a profound sentence in a book, and you're like, oh wow, that actually, that person wrote that, and that means something to me.
And one of those is in the introduction to the film, Matt.
Pardon?
One of those sentences from a book is in the introduction to the film.
Yeah, so actually I should probably make a note of that, because the film opens with this really, to me, quite a beautiful few lines from a poem. And the poem is by a Tushetian poet from the 19th century. And he's a really well-known poet within Georgia, within Tushetian culture, but within Georgia as a whole. And he's kind of celebrated. He was apparently Stalin's favorite poet. Stalin was from Georgia. And the poem is all about this association with land, with homeland, and kind of these classic tropes of connection and patriotism and connecting to culture. And it kind of frames everything that happens in the film afterwards. And I can't even remember what it says now. But it's
film, guys.
Yeah, it basically says that, you know, the biggest, greatest act that we can have is to commit ourselves to the land and to the people that we're from, and that really sums up Iraklis' view of what he's doing. Yeah, I wish I could remember exactly what it says. It's a really beautiful quote, but also a really beautiful poem as well. And I was really lucky to find that poem, because it's regionally important. So it's from Tusheti, this tiny little mountain region. It's from there most famous poet. So it's really quite geographically true as well.
That's a very nice, what's the right word? Synchronicity.
Yeah, or luck. I think luck.
You believe in it then. What do you reckon that you will be doing when you get out of lockdown 2, if indeed we are let out of lockdown 2?
Lockdown 2. So lockdown, there's various film projects. So just before, I just started a longer film at the start of the year, which is something completely different to anything I've really done before, and was been working with some boxing clubs in Goma in the DRC, so in the Democratic Republic of Congo, and working on hopefully trying to make a feature film about some stories from these boxing clubs in this region who bring in former child soldiers and rehabilitate them back into everyday life in the city there. So just as COVID hit, just as the UK lockdown hit, I was actually out in the DRC and had to take the very last flight out of the last seat, or the last 3 seats. I was with 2 other people. The last 3 seats on the very last flight out to arrive back in the UK before everything closed. So that project took a year to get into development. We were out there for maybe 10 days of what was going to be quite a long stint out there. So we're looking to try and return out there and continue that work. It's really amazing what these boxing clubs are doing, and the people there, the way that they're viewing life now is it's phenomenal, really, really phenomenal. So that's kind of a long-term project for 2021. That
sounds incredible. Is it funded, or is it something you're looking for funding for?
I'm always looking for funding.
Audience,
if
you have in this pandemic that has held onto your paycheck and you would like to help Ben make a film,
yeah,
about child soldiers becoming boxers, or at least being nurtured.
If you want to help this couple of boxing clubs who have zero NGO Western aid funding and are really truly grassroots and doing something quite remarkable, and within that there's a very remarkable story of overcoming adversity and redemption, and some really amazing characters. There's definitely a lot of scope for really helping the situation there, actually. Yeah.
That sounds incredible. Another film that you should probably watch, Ben, and audience you can watch, is called Into the Storm, which is about a young boy from Barros in Lima, who was in a really compromising context, I'd say, and is picked up by a surfing coach and has is rehabilitated to some extent through that journey. All right, Ben, is there anything in particular you would like to say to our audience before they go and watch your film right away?
Go watch the film. I mean, that's obviously number one, isn't it? Go and watch as many films as possible in the festival. Like Kendal Festival's been, I don't know, it's really helped me. It's really nurtured, like, trying to go into filmmaking is quite a difficult route, and Kendal's always been like a really good, just like really helping young talent or young filmmakers in the UK. They've really like been a fantastic, I don't know what the word is, expose of that. No, that's not the right word. But yeah, watch lots of films, and I don't know, try and connect with things, I guess. Try and find things that have some value to them.
Thanks. Thanks for being such a curious soul. We at Kendal really appreciate you.
Oh, thank you very much.
If you'd like to go to the camera, I'm going to sign you out.
Okay. Bye-bye. Thank you for watching.
All right, that was Ben Page. He really does make some beautiful films, and Irakli's Lantern is in Age is No Barrier, which is a curation you will find on the All Films or the All Films curations page. Please do check it out. It's a curation which involves people of all ages having adventures and telling really quite beautiful stories, especially in this case. Coming up at 8 o'clock, Emily Davis, our curation manageress, Wonder Woman, is presenting Women in Adventure, which is a fantastic session with a huge variety of female adventurers, ranging from climbing to biking, to kayaking. There's all sorts in there that is really, really inspiring. It's a very exciting session for Kendal this year. And check out the rest of the festival. We've got yoga at 7:30 again for those of you that have been managing to come to that so far. That cracks on for the next 10 days. And please keep engaging in the comments and the live chats. It's fantastic to hear what you're saying. And we know the filmmakers are really encouraged by all of your thoughts so far. All right, thanks very much, guys. Have a fantastic evening.